Thank you, Supra, for the introduction, and thank you to the Metrics team for providing me the opportunity to share Salesforce's experience, our journey through a common controls framework over the past year or so. My name is Sundar Venkat. I have been with the company now for about 3.5 years, Salesforce, serving in the technology compliance team. What I'm going to do today is provide a little bit of a high-level overview about Salesforce as a company, then the team that I'm part of called Technology Compliance, what we do, how we do, and how we do things, and what some of our deliverables are, etc. And then I'll talk about a set of challenges that we embarked on sometime in the middle of last year. And some of these challenges which you may all be privy to, that you may be encountering in your own organizations. And then I'll talk a little bit about the approach that we took to resolving those challenges, what we achieved out of that. And then finally, we'll talk about how we have leveraged Metrics Stream as a software system to bridge a few gaps that we had in our processes and how we automated those. Sound good? Okay, good. Show of hands, before I go to my slides, how many of you are in a compliance role? Yeah, reasonable amount of people. Anyone from IT? Great. Anyone in development, engineering? Anyone in risk management? Okay, great. Okay, so I see a lot of hands here. Perfect. So most of the language that I'm hoping that I'll flash will all resonate with you guys. And if I am speaking some language that you don't follow, feel free to interrupt. Feel free to ask me questions. Let's keep it interactive. You want to get something out of this session? I want to get something out of this session. I want to learn from you guys too. Okay? All right. I'm going to start with a little bit of an overview about Salesforce as a company. I'm super thrilled, and many of you may be aware, super thrilled to share that Forbes has honored us with an award, Innovator of the Decade. We're also super humbled that Fortune has ranked us as 100 best companies over the last 100 best companies to work for about 9 years in a row, I think. And we've had so many other accolades. Very humbled to be a part of this incredible company, which is on a tremendous growth path. But most importantly, we are successful because of how our customers view us and how we are viewed in the community. And we leverage our successes of our customers, and we are thrilled to be part of their journey. And Shelley, in her opening keynote today, spoke about disruption. We are thrilled that Salesforce is one of the enablers of this disruption, and we are able to help companies make changes and automate and scale and grow and all that. So we are very thrilled about that. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about Technology Compliance, which is an organization that I'm part of. It's part of a larger organization called Compliance and Audit Center. Several of my colleagues are also here. Thank you, team, for supporting me here. I'll talk to you guys, very high level, who we are, what we do, and how we do it. What's our mission? Our mission is to protect our customers. Our mission is to enable our salespeople to, protect the brand and enable the company to grow. And how do we do it? We hold a few principles very closely to our heart. Our values are on the top right corner: trust, growth, enablement, and people. I'm going to specifically talk about trust. To me, trust means doing the right thing, acting with the highest sense of integrity. And when we say trust of our customers, what we mean is outlined as the elements of trust in the bottom corner, which is ensuring that we take the highest level of measures to secure and protect our customers' data and customers' information. We ensure that our services are always available for customers to use. We are enabling performance of our customers and their operations, and then enabling them to grow and scale. We have data centers across the world. And the fifth element, which is where my team comes in, compliance. Compliance is an important element of trust. Ensure that we are adhering to all the global standards that have been set. That's also outlined on some of the deliverables that my team is responsible for. We want to comply with all the certification requirements that the company has globally in the United States and as well as across the globe, across a variety of industries that we serve. We partner a lot with different individuals inside the Salesforce. We're an enabling function. We enable our sales organization. We enable our engineering organization. We enable our internal IT organization and all that. We act as internal advisors to our partners, and those partners enable our customers and so on. That's the role that we play. We're also growing very fast. We're growing very rapidly. Supra mentioned that we've been growing at a very rapid pace, and with that comes a lot of challenges. We were able to execute on certain things when we were a $2 billion company. We were able to execute certain things when we were 10,000 employees in the company, operating in about 5 to 10 countries. Now we are operating at over 27 countries. We are, we're about $10 billion in revenue, etc. So as the company grows and the number of employees grow, and as we are penetrating into new industries and new geographies, with that comes a lot of challenges. And I'll talk about that in a second. So we want to design processes, the company that will allow us for scale. We're also doing what's called an intake process. The process, as we are growing into different industries and the regulatory environment is getting more and more stringent in different industries, the need that we have from a compliance standpoint in all those industries is increasing. How do we as an organization keep up with that? So we've created a streamlined process for intaking new certifications, new requirements, and evaluate what best makes sense for our company to grow, etc. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. So I want to talk about the certifications on the bottom right corner. That is what led us to this Common Controls Framework initiative. As you can see there, it's very small fonts, but it's SOX, PCI, ISO 27001, FedRAMP, and a slew of international certifications that we are required there to. Some are mandatory certifications because we are selling to certain industries. For example, if you want to sell to the US federal government and government agencies, we are required to have FedRAMP. We are a cloud service provider. And similarly, if you're holding credit card information on your systems, on Salesforce as a platform, then we are required to adhere to PCI as a certification. Anyone has any questions on these certifications? Anyone have any experience with ISO, PCI? I see a couple of hands. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone have experience with SOX? Sarbanes-Oxley? Okay, yeah, plenty of hands. Okay, great. So we have all these regulations across the globe for different industries that we are catering to. And these regulations are only increasing by the day. It's not, and the stringency of the regulators is not getting any lower than before. So the challenges that we started facing is, our company is growing. We are acquiring companies. We are expanding into new industries. We are expanding into new locations that we were not doing businesses. And in those locations, there are several very stringent industry regulations. For example, financial services industry, it's not any secret. Everyone knows that it's one of the most regulated industries. Similarly, if you're selling to the government, that poses a lot of restrictions in different geographies. Germany has a certain set of regulations versus Japan, versus Australia, versus UK, and so on. So as we were growing, we continue to face a lot of stringency and a lot of requirements across all these industries. And what we noticed was, until a couple of years back, we had audits and certifications going throughout the year, which means we would have just wrapped up a PCI audit cycle, and then our auditors for SOC will be on the ground. And as we are doing SOC, our auditors for ISO will be in the ground, and then the next round of PCI, and then SOX, and so on and so forth. This caused a tremendous amount of fatigue with our business partners. They were like, "You guys want us to build products, or are you always going to put us through audits all the time?" And audit department is not the most famous department in the company. I think you can all agree to that. So we're always going and asking questions and asking for evidences, and that caused an immense amount of fatigue. So we recognize that that's a problem. And then also the way we were collecting evidences, for PCI, we would collect a set of evidences, and then 3 months later, we'd go back and ask for a different set of evidences because we have a different set of auditor for that. And then people will be like, "I thought I gave you that evidence 3 months back. Why are you bothering me now?" And that became a recurring problem. And then we had that type of pushback throughout the year from our business partners inside the company. Also, we found that the way we were testing and our auditors were testing was not the most efficient, and we had to provide some education on our processes and our controls and all that. So that was another missing part. And the intake of new frameworks and new certification requirements was always cumbersome. Someone in Australia will say, "Hey, we have to sell to the government industry there, therefore we have decided to pursue the certification." So this is salespeople making independent decisions about, what industry we should penetrate into. Sure, salespeople their job is to penetrate into new industries and all that, but they don't have the compliance and regulatory lens that people on the compliance space have and people in the audit world have. So there is always a back and forth between my compliance leadership and on my engineering leadership and leadership in security and leadership in the sales. We're all talking about what is the best way for all of us to get aligned in a single format where everyone is here, and then we can make a decision that is strategic for the company as opposed to making siloed decisions that work one time for one industry in one region. So we recognize that as an issue. With all these challenges, we determined that we're not going to be able to solve it with just one or two teams. We have to get a number of key players across the company in the same room. And we created a broad vision for the company. And we recognize that it's not something that it's not a compliance initiative, it's a Salesforce initiative. We organized that into 5 broad set of activities, which is what I've outlined on this house slide. Number 1 is strengthening our governance. This is around setting the tone at the top, ensuring that you have sponsorship from the right level of executives at the company. Ensuring that we have a good governance model, and then we have change management to adopt any type of changes that we are making. And then ensuring that all the stakeholders across the company are educated and there is a good awareness around rationalizing all these controls. The next steps, the next pillar of activities is around streamlining our audit activities. I told you that we were having audits throughout the year. That's not a sustainable thing. So we decided as a company to have 2 cycles in the year. We call it the spring audit cycle and the fall audit cycle. Just 2 cycles. There'll be a set of programs that will be done in the spring audit cycle, and there'll be a set of programs in the fall audit cycle. And between these 2, in the summer and winter, developers and engineers and IT people, they can focus on their core day job as opposed to just supporting compliance and audit teams for their audits. We also streamlined our evidence gathering process. We created a single mechanism called an artifact request list, which is a consolidated mechanism for all our audits, saying for these controls, here are the set of evidences, irrespective of whether it's PCI or ISO or SOX or FedRAMP. Here is the set of evidences that we'll be sharing a auditor, will that work for you? And then we worked closely with our auditors. We also had a whole bunch of auditors for all these different certifications. And we are in the process of harmonizing those audits and getting efficiency from that, because the spirit of most of these audits tend to be the same. It's just sort of some frameworks are a little bit more prescriptive, some are a little bit more principle-based, some are too high level, some are very security focused, etc., etc. Yeah, please. Okay, great question. So these are our external auditors. External auditors, individuals that are outside of this who come and audit us for to provide the certification. So for PCI, you need to get an independent company that will come outside of Salesforce that will come and certify us. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the question. The third set of activities is around consolidating and aggregating all our content, because each framework, whether it's SOC or PCI or SOX or FedRAMP, has a slew of risks and controls that are requirements that they have prescribed. Like I said, in spirit, I would say about 70 to 80% of all the frameworks have is very, very similar. Things around configuration management, things around access controls, things around, if it's employee-based thing, it'll around background checks and how do you hire and what type of practices you have, how do you do access terminations and all that. The spirit of most of these frameworks are all, in general, the same. Some say exactly, for example, in FedRAMP, it's like, thou shalt do this, otherwise you won't get the certification or you won't pass this particular control. Some are prescriptive. Some are more like, you should have a policy in the company that will allow for access provisioning to be done with these 3 steps, and that's all it says. So we decided that we need to harmonize and identify what the overlaps are between the various frameworks, and then we defined a methodology for doing all of that. We also got some consulting help for delivering that content. The fourth pillar of activities is ongoing innovation and transformation. If something worked 1 year and if you just retain the same thing, great. But if there's a new problem, you'll have to think on your feet and innovate and be willing to transform your processes, risks, and all that. So we recognize that there are things that we will have to always do to continuously improve and continuously innovate. Those are sets of activities that we're calling as transformation of our compliance processes. We are in the process of developing what's called an internal controls monitoring program. And the idea of that is, this may not be new for people in the financial services industry, but in the tech industry where things change more rapidly in the cloud space, and the regulatory environment is getting more and more stringent in that space. What you used as a mechanism that worked may not necessarily work, and you have to continuously streamline your controls and you have to work in an optimized environment. You have to work towards that. We're also trying to embrace this concept called compliance in the DNA of people. And what we mean by that is people should not do anything just so that they can pass an audit. That has never been our motto. You do the right things, and by virtue of doing things, you will automatically adhere to the highest level of stringency and all the regulatory requirements. You don't do something just to pass the audit. You do the right thing, and things will get taken care of automatically. So our goal is to build an internal controls program which people are just executing as a part of their day-to-day job, and then we get certain reports, and then we provide it to our auditors, and by virtue of that, we're able to take our programs to the next level. And that's what we're doing in the transformation. And finally, and very importantly, we went through a system selection process to automate all these processes and store all our controls across all our environments into a single system. Until then, we had Salesforce's own homegrown system for some teams. We had certain processes that we followed across these teams. And then we did some rationalization, and then finally we selected MetricStream as our partner. And it's been an incredible journey that we've had. I'll talk to you about what modules we purchased in the next few slides. Any questions? I'm going to pause for a second. Any questions, comments? Yes. We report to the Chief Compliance Officer, part of the Compliance and Audit Center. It's part of the legal organization. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, great question. There are several elements. So the question is, what is internal compliance and where does that fit into your organization? So internal compliance is also part of the Compliance and Audit Center. There are several elements of internal compliance. There is finance compliance for around financial processes and all that. There is a function called HR compliance around human resources. There is, within the technology compliance team, there is a team that takes care of all the IT component of Sarbanes-Oxley is part of the technology compliance team. We also have like a special projects team that takes care of various other internal compliance activities. We have an independent internal audit team, which is outside of all this organization, reporting directly to the audit committee that takes care of certain functions. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. So with the vision that we had, we embarked on I would say, 2 to 3 year journey. And this is the result of what we achieved in year 1. And the pie chart is meant to indicate the various compliance requirements that Salesforce as a company currently manages. As you can see, it's a total of about 5,128 requirements across about 17 different programs. And across several industries, you have FFIEC, we have FedRAMP. On the public sector side, we also have the provisionally authorized to operate for the Department of Defense. Then, we have, of course, we have the HIPAA law requirements on the healthcare side, and similarly, HITRUST is another certification that we are in the process of pursuing. We have regulatory requirements in Australia market called IRAP, and then in Germany called TÜV. So you guys get the idea. A slew of requirements across the globe, across various industries. And as I was saying earlier, the spirit of most of these frameworks is essentially very, very similar. And we were able to accomplish a significant amount of consolidation, about 93% consolidation. So we were able to reduce the 5,128 requirements into a small set of about 326 controls. So that took this pretty Herculean effort between the compliance organization, with our engineering organization, our products team. We also had our IT team participate. We had a security organization participate. It is a team effort across the company, and we were able to accomplish this main achievement. Yes. Yeah. I'll start with a couple, and as I'm speaking, maybe I'll remember more. The first lesson is ensure that you get the right level of sponsorship from all the organizations that you're participating, because it cannot be a compliance problem. It has to be a company-wide initiative. Getting the right level of sponsorship is imperative for you to be successful across these organizations. It has to be in the priority. At Salesforce, we have an annual goal-setting exercise that we do at the beginning of the year. So we ensure that this initiative is on the annual goal for the leaders across the company in IT, in engineering, and all engineering, IT, infrastructure, and then for compliance and so on. So that was step number one. We tried it the year before in the middle of the year, and that did not go anywhere because we did not secure our executives' commitments. Number two, don't try to do all at once. So 17 requirements, we actually tried to do a pilot. We did a pilot of 3 frameworks, and across those 3 frameworks, we only did about 50 requirements. 50 of the most painful requirements, let's start with that. And the most time-consuming ones, take that, and then show it as a success story and educate the people inside the organization. Educate. We did a lot of socialization around this to ensure that people believed in the direction as a company that we were heading. What else? Continuously educate, seek perspectives from third parties and consultants, individuals that are seeing across industries. So we spoke to people not just in the tech industry, we also spoke to individuals in financial services, people in healthcare, and see what they're saying. And fourth, I can think of is we reached out to our customers to ask them what will make the most sense how can we, in an easy manner, provide assurance to our customers around all the compliance requirements that they're meeting for them. And they provided some very meaningful perspectives, and we used all of that. Was it helpful? Okay, great. Any other questions? Yes. Sorry, come again. Can you? Yeah. Great question. So the initial phase of this program, we got all the technology components of the compliance frameworks into scope. We have every intention in the future state to integrate all other compliance frameworks into a consolidated repository. So this will include things like in privacy and legal and HR and potentially on the financial SOX side of the house. That's our intention, but that's something that we're planning in the future state. Great question. Okay. So that was last year when we took a phased approach and then we delivered on one thing. Now we're moving to the next phase, which is a process of doing something that's sustainable and having a robust change management process that will continuously enable us. So we're doing 3 broad sets of activities. Activity number 1 is called authoritative sources monitoring, which is as we are growing, we need to keep a pulse on what is really happening in the industry and what are some of the regulations that are getting more and more stringent. Is there a new version of payment card industry certification that's coming out? Is there a new regulation that's coming in the France healthcare market? Is there something in Canada around financial services that we should keep a pulse on, etc.? So we want to continuously monitor and keep abreast with the changing regulation space. So that's one work stream. We're calling it authoritative sources monitoring. The second set is change operations. Some of you may have heard Salesforce acquired a number of companies last year. I think more than about 14 or so companies last year alone. Acquired a ton of companies, and by virtue of that acquisition, we are also inheriting the compliance and regulatory requirements that those companies are already adhering to, and we also want to hold all our acquisitions to a very high standard. So by virtue of that, there's a lot of new challenges and new territories that we are entering. And we recognize that. So we want to make sure that the framework that we are building and managing and maintaining is scalable enough to accommodate all our acquisitions and their frameworks and industries that they are supporting. Similarly, our engineers and products are also constantly evolving and developing. We want to build more and more products. We are, some of you may have heard, we launched a product, an artificial intelligence solution about 6 months back, and we are continuing to innovate on that space. But we're also sensitive to all the regulatory and compliance-related requirements that we have to adhere to while we are building such products. So anytime we build new products and new services and we launch into new industries, we are cognizant of that, and we want to make sure that our control environment in the company is built adequately and is ready to change to the product innovation that the company is making. So that's what we're calling it in the change operation space, whether it's acquiring new companies or whether it's new functions that we are building in our products. And finally, we have to continuously maintain this common controls library or the content, the 326 controls that I spoke about, which has got like several elements and attributes that is already embedded into those. That constantly needs to be maintained, because the moment we build it, we already have a new set of requirements and a new set of problems, a new set of products, a new set of things new set of market that we are selling to, etc. So those activities are done on the third work stream called content refresh. So it's our ongoing sustainability activity. Any questions? Great. Now, how do we maintain all of this? We can't do it all in spreadsheets. We certainly can't do it without good, strong collaboration tools. We tried to do it in spreadsheets a couple of years back. That didn't work. We tried to build our own product. It worked for some teams, but it did not work for everyone. And it was not scalable enough. And we did not invest in building more and more in that space. So, as I said, we went through an extensive system selection process. We first outlined what are the various problems that we are facing, what are the processes that we have today, and what can be automated, etc. And then we said, okay, now that we have identified the processes, what's our future process look like, and outline that. And we had to make a build versus buy decision. Because in the Silicon Valley, most tech companies, we're all innovators. There is an inherent belief that we can build these solutions on our own, and our engineering organization and our IT organization takes a lot of pride. I'm totally with them, but it's also, there is a cost to building versus cost to buying, and a time to buy versus time to build. So we weighed all the pros and cons, and then we selected MetricStream as our partner on this journey with us. And then after that, we did a lot of internal alignment and harmonization and rationalization before we engaged with their system integration team. And then we performed our implementation in a phased manner, some of which is outlined here. We purchased a total of 4 packaged applications from MetricStream: internal audit, enterprise risk management, IT compliance, and SOX. Those are the 4 solutions that we purchased. And we have successfully implemented 2 of these 4, and we are in the middle of designing and implementing the other 2. With that, I'll pause for a second. Any reactions, any questions? Yes. It's a great question. So the question is, the fact that you guys already have IT compliance management, are you thinking about potentially bringing IT risk management as a module in the future state? We haven't gone that far yet, to tell you the truth. Our intention is to build and solidify our what we call as enterprise risk management program. We purchased the ERM module. We are strengthening our program as we speak, and we are trying to use MetricStream as an enabler for strengthening that program. And once we get to a fairly mature state, sure, maybe we're thinking about operational risk, IT risk, business continuity risk. Now, we have all those problems, but we are trying to, what do they say, crawl, walk, and then run. So do step by step. That's our game plan. Yes?
learned or any epiphanies internally from your side
Come
during the
again.
process?
Could you repeat that?
Have you had any lessons learned during the process of onboarding or epiphanies from your side?
Oh yeah, where do I start? It's been a great journey. So let me. Similar to my comment around common controls framework, the lesson that we learned is try to define. This is probably an old adage. Try to define your business process first. Identify what process you are trying to solve, agnostic of whether you're using metric stream or any other tool, homegrown or outside. Figure out your process first and what your process to look like in the future state. So that's something that we quickly recognized because we went through this journey a couple of years back by one of my predecessors and teams had already tried that, and that did not go very well. Number two, try not to implement all the solutions at once. Do it in bite-sized chunks. And even the functionality that you have, try to do, maybe do a pilot. I would say do a proof of concept first. Ensure that people are all comfortable with it because it cannot be an isolated decision. Ensure that all the business partners, the individuals that you're relying upon are all bought into your idea and they all subscribe to the same school of thought. They want to use the solution. Let's see, what else? Set expectations and getting the internal executive commitments, sponsorship, and it's not just initially getting a nod from the executive saying, "Yep, I support it," and all that. Have that ongoing cadence where you continuously raise issues. Make sure there is an appropriate governance model. So we have established a steerco and an opsco, and we have like these steerco meetings every 2 weeks, and then there is an opsco meeting every week where we talk about day-to-day issues and statuses and all that. It's very important to do all those things. It may seem like mere administrative task, but those all certainly help with rolling out on appropriate dates. And I think in the keynote or in one of the sessions, someone else said this, try to be more agile. Get something out. Don't let, what do they say? Don't let good be the enemy, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. So try to get something good and then get it better, and so on. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? So this is my last slide. I'll just wrap it up with all the things that we have put into the system so far. So we've set up all our risk and controls libraries. We've enabled it with our single sign-on, and we've integrated metric stream with our HR system, Workday. We have configured all the audit planning, scoping, testing, evidence gathering, findings, remediation, all the functionality around that. We've also configured a lot of workflows and escalation mechanisms, etc. And one other lesson learned that I wanted to call out is try to minimize your customization. Some of your internal stakeholders are going to be unhappy. You have to do a little bit of tap dance and tango to manage that, especially if they're higher up in the organization. Because come upgrade time will certainly face that the more customized version you have, the more painful your ongoing maintenance is going to be. Then we are in the process of doing the SOX certifications, the 302 surveys, etc. We're rolling that out. We're also, as I mentioned earlier, rolling out enterprise risk management and the functionality around internal audit. That is all I had. I'm happy to take any additional questions, talk to you guys about common control framework. Yes? How many levels of our control library? Yeah, great question. So we've established a multi-level hierarchy in this case. So initially we started with a 3-level hierarchy of our controls. Now we are in the process of kind of moving it to a different data structure where we can leverage some of the metric stream objects, where you have the control objective, then you have the common control, and then the requirement. We're trying to leverage the underlying metric stream provided data model, if you will, to manage all our libraries. Yes?
Where are your regulations in the libraries?
So we have actually configured as a part of the requirements object. It's all in the overall risk library, and then we import all the requirements from our common controls framework into the requirements object. Yes? So our employee information. So for those of you who did not hear the question, what did we do to integrate metric stream with Workday? So what information we integrated with Workday? So specifically our employee information, we wanted to make sure the individuals that have logins to metric stream are either our full-time employees in the compliance and audit center teams, or our business partners within the organization, or a select set of consultants and contractors that we've engaged, or in some cases, our external auditors. These are the four broad set of people that we have in our Workday system and our supporting system. So we've integrated all of that so that metric stream can get that information. Yes? Do you, in addition to the regulation,
change management, your regulations are in the requirements library. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
How about your regulatory change management process? Is that a part of this, or is it outside?
Yeah, great question. So I think in one of the slides earlier, I had outlined the change management process. So the change management process is something that we are rolling out this year. The risk and control matrix is indeed stored in the library component of metric stream. There are some teams that are directly updating onto the system, and there is an established process for change management around that. There are some teams that are using upload mechanisms to manage this, depending on the types of changes. There are some teams that are having it done by an external group of people who are specialists in updating that. But the change management process is an ongoing thing, and we're using metric stream to manage that. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Thanks again for the opportunity, and I'm sorry I kept you guys away from happy hour. Hopefully you have fun. Okay, cheers.
Thanks, everybody.